teeth to it for sure. I mean, I think there's a lot more that we have to learn about it. I think the initial announcement was kind of what we expected and what we were hearing. I think one thing that stood out to me from the initial press conference, obviously we heard the word stability a whole lot again and again, and so I think I'm interested to see what that looks like long term. What is that stability that this provides? And then on top of that, my biggest questions, I mean, I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, so the only thing that mattered was, are you a South Carolina fan? Are you a Clemson fan? Who do you like? So when you start talking about an alliance and you start thinking about schedule changes, you start thinking about late November and what does that look like? Are we still going to get that? So for me, hearing that right now, nothing is in the plans to change. We're not tearing up any contracts, and we're not saying, hey, you can only play within the alliance. Those were a couple of my big takeaways, but we'll see. We'll see what comes out of it. I think this is just the beginning, and it's no secret that college athletics, college football is changing, and everybody sees what happened with Texas and Oklahoma, and I think it's one move in maybe the right direction, and we'll see what the long term is.
What was the answer to that Clemson, South Carolina question, by the way?
So I've got family that went to Clemson, and I got family that went to South Carolina. So
she went to Charleston, South Carolina. She wore blue. She wore blue.
I got a little bit of both. Actually, my grandfather played football at South Carolina and played football at Clemson, and so.
Is he the only person to ever do that?
Harry Cox did it.
There you go. So there's only two, I guess.
There you go.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Robinson played for us in '78. Played for South Carolina.
There you go. Easy enough.
Tim's gonna know that right off top.
That's right.
That's why he went to him.
And Feaster.
Oh, well, there you go. We're brand new.
So,
Well, Mac, I'm sorry. Will.
go ahead.
Well, was there ever a team in the Pac-12 or Big Ten that you thought, man, I gotta somehow get a home and home with that team?
Oregon was really good in my career, so that would have been a lot of fun to go there, to host them here. I think when you think of big name brands, it would be fun to play USC and to see the over there in LA and what they've got going on. But it's going to be interesting to see where college football goes. It's an ever-changing landscape. The only thing that's important for this area is that Clemson's going to be square in the middle of all of it, and I think there's no question about that.
Kelsey, is there a team, and everybody knows Clemson's going to be the favorite, is there North Carolina, we talk about Miami, is there a team that's going to surprise people this year?
I mean, I love North Carolina, I love Miami, but I really like Boston College this year. At this point, I don't even feel like it's a surprise. I feel like a lot of people are really taking note of Phil Dracovic and then what Jeff Hafley was able to do in year one. I mean, to have the year that they did and for him to build the foundation that he did in a COVID year. Last year was hard for everybody. And so I think the foundation that they got in year one is really exciting. And then I know this guy wants to talk about the offensive line and what they have coming back, but I'm really excited about Boston College if you talk surprise teams. I know you are too.
Yeah, and just looking at them, I mean, you saw the way the game ended with, Brian Brzee just absolutely destroying a guy at left tackle that should be a guard, and he's there now. And so they're going to make the necessary movements and, changes to put them in the best chance. I don't know what caused that experiment. Clearly it wasn't great. And so I'm glad that he's now at a position that I think he's the best in the country. I think he is offensive guard one in Zion Johnson. And so now that he's back, it's going to be a lot of fun. I know they're not happy about playing here 3 straight years, but it's going to be a great test for Clemson and a great test for them as well.
Speaking of offensive line, you just watch these guys. That's obviously the number one question here. What did you think watching these new guys out here?
Yeah, well, not a new guy. Jordan McFadden looks fantastic, and you talk about another guy that is going to be wanting to fight for that best in the country spot, or at least in the top tier, and he looks fantastic. Really looks good. Walker, he's a guy that looks fantastic, but where he does his best is when he can be physical and hurt people, and you can't do that today against scouts or when you're kind of in a walkthrough type of mode. So excited to see him, and then on the interior, just to see who steps up. Who's going to be the guy that runs out there first at center, at guard? Do they move people around? Is it rotating door where they feel good about maybe 6 or 7 guys that they get in there? My senior year, we rotated guys a lot intentionally to get them ready for the next couple of years. So is that going to be the case, or is there going to be a true 5 that steps up, to the plate?
What does Mock look like at the center? Mock.
Good. I mean, I think everybody again has gotten their snaps and have gotten their fair time, and so I think when you see him, he is again such an aggressive player that it's already a hard position to evaluate. But when you're not going full speed, you're not finishing and giving great effort, just going against each other's scout. You want to protect those guys. It's hard to give you a true synopsis. But he's a leader. He's been here so long. And if he is going to be the guy that goes out there first, he'll be just fine.
What do you think about the size of these freshmen, Tristan and DJ?
They're built a little different, right? I mean, my goodness, to see these guys just run out there, it's head scratching. I mean, I was at the spring game and I see Tate walk by and I'm just like, my gosh. I mean, it's a little bit different than what I'm used to seeing, and so it's great. And he looked fantastic today when he got his reps. And again, you feel excited about the future.
Eric, what do you remember about that 2013 game against Georgia? Electric has been kind of their moving forward, but what do you remember about that game and then the next year going to Georgia playing there?
Yeah, both of those games, environment was insane. I mean, you're looking at ABC, primetime, 8 o'clock at night. Was a tremendous environment for us here in the Valley, and then when we went there as well, it was a battle and it was a grind. And one game got a little out of hand in 14 where Todd Gurley, I think he still just scored a rushing touchdown. But it was fun. And I think people ask me all the time, okay, what would you rather do as a program, play a top 5 team or open up with what people would call a cupcake schedule? And I think it depends where you are as a program. A program like Clemson, who has been so established for so long, I think you look forward to these games because it's almost a win-win for either team that loses this game. All of your goals are still in front of you. There is still a full season to play, whether it's Georgia or whether it's Clemson that eventually loses this game. But it's a good metric to see where you are, and it's a good metric to see, okay, this is what we need to work on. This is what we need to do. This is a national championship caliber game, and we get in week 1. So it's going to be a lot of fun for us to cover on the network as fans, for you guys to cover. There's going to be so much juice and energy.
You almost have to stay at 8 games, and if you're the ACC, especially with this alliance, if you're going to preserve these types of rivalries, Clemson, Georgia, out of conference. You already obviously have South Carolina, and you've got a game with Notre Dame every 2 or 3 years as well.
It's going to be interesting to see. I think that those decisions are going to be made by people way up higher than us, and whatever they decide to do will, be the right move for the ACC. I think there are, like I said, so many changes coming. We just have to kind of hold on to our seats.
For either of y'all, what concerns do you have about Clemson going into this year?
Go ahead. She doesn't have any.
Do you ever have a lot of concerns in the last however many years with Clemson going into each year? I mean, honestly, when you say concerns, I wouldn't say any concerns. I was really excited to get out here and see the offense. I think we know what they have coming back on defense with so much talent. And we know what DJ can do. We got to see it last year. We got to see him step up in big moments already. So concerns, I don't know about concerns. I would say my level of excitement is more getting to see him on that big stage week 1 when this is his team now. This is the moment, this is the year, and we always say with Clemson, it's just another year of rebuilding, and I don't think you ever miss a step. So, EMAC, did you have any concerns?
Yeah, reloading, not rebuilding.
Rebuild, not reload. Did I say the wrong one?
When you look at last year, I mean, what were the 2 topics of discussion for any and everybody? It was the secondary because of the last performance that they had against Ohio State, and the offensive line. And I think that's going to be going into the preseason. That first game, guess what we're all going to be staring at? Those 2 position groups. And like Kelsey said, I'm not sure if concern is the correct word to have with them, but certainly a point of interest that we're going to be really focusing on. You're going against a quarterback in JT Daniels that in his 4 games, performed very well, averaging over 300 yards a game, 10 yards per reception, and was 10-2 in terms of touchdowns and interceptions. So that's going to be something where people are going to talk about it. Can Clemson take advantage of this and get some turnovers, or is he going to light them up? Defensively, you look at Georgia's defensive line. They have been number 1 against the run for how many years in a row? So can Clemson reestablish or establish some type of run? So those are the 2 points that of emphasis that I'll be looking at hard in week 1.
Mac, from a player's perspective, what do you think it'll be like when those receivers line up against Darian Kendrick? Obviously those guys, a lot of those guys are still really tight, have real deep friendships, and do you think it'll be more of a friendly rivalry type of practice deal, or will there be some animosity?
Yeah, well, you think about fighting with your brother or fighting with your sister. Those battles are real, right? And those battles get bloody quickly or fierce quickly. So I think it'll be fun leading up to it. I think Saturday it'll be all business, and those guys will be ready to compete and ready to go against each other. I think it was Justin Ross that said that's one of my best friends, and I look forward to going against him on that field. So I can't wait to see it.
don't want to take away your talking points, but I'll get this from both of you. Clemson beats Georgia if this happens. Georgia beats Clemson if this happens.
What you got?
Okay, so I think Clemson beats Georgia if they can contain the run. I don't think you're going to stop the run against Georgia. I think that's what they do. And then for Georgia, if they can run all day, it comes down to line of scrimmage. If they can run all day, they're going to win that game. And it's going to be very hard for Clemson to, number one, clock management. They're not going to have the ball offensively if Georgia can do whatever they want from an offensive line and running back perspective. But based on what I saw today, I'm not sure if that'll happen. I think this defensive line is pretty good.
I'll just say I learned as a host very early on to not challenge Mac and his points too many times, but so I'll stick with Mac there.
Mike, I remember the press conference after your last game at Clemson, January 2016, the loss to Alabama. You had tears in your eyes, and Coach Sweeney said that the best is yet to come. Did you truly believe that it would be like this, whatever it is, 5, 6 years later, with Clemson's dominance of the ACC and regular trips to the playoffs?
I think whoever would tell you yes would be lying. I did think great success was coming. You know, to sit here and say they're going to win, is this going on 7 ACC champ? I don't think anybody would truthfully tell you that they thought that then. But surely success, and surely I did not think it was going to be 34 years until Clemson was back in a national championship. So to define it as what it is, no. But yes, I thought it would be great success. No doubt.
All right.
Cool. Thanks, guys.